Writing is just about like, how can I get you with the fewest words possible to want to hear the rest of what I have to say? And the comedian, you're just saying, well, how can I begin a story in such a way that you've got to hear the end of it, or you're going to be unsatisfied.
Greetings, everyone. Come on in and have a seat up front for the Funny Muscle Podcast. If you're here, then you're looking to learn how to create laughs like a pro. So please help me welcome to the stage your co-host to help you do that, economics professor and open micer Chris Stifler and comedian turned author Mike Lucas.
Well, I was thinking what might be fun is if like these are bits that you've asked me before, like what's something I can do, what's something that you can do to practice when you're not on stage. So what I always do is I like go through the like reels on Facebook or on YouTube, and I look for these stand-up comedy clips, and then when I find a good one, I just copy and paste the link and send it to myself so that I can I can use it to like I've broken it down with the heightening devices that are being used, like this one with Louis C.K. Like, check out this bit.
I saw a guy peeling a banana the other day.
Okay, so that's his premise. I saw a guy peeling a banana the other day. He didn't say peeling bananas is weird. It's a story. I saw a guy peeling a banana the other day. Well, you want to lean in because you're like, who cares? Wait a minute, it's Louis C.K. What is he going to say about peeling a banana? If I talked about this, it would be boring as shit. If he talks about it, is it going to be more interesting? As an audience member, right? So how does he set us up?
That didn't seem too intriguing if I said that. If I said those exact words, people wouldn't be intrigued, would they? Because I don't hardly have a persona or I'm not well known.
But I think they might be.
I saw a guy peeling a banana.
It's an overstating the obvious almost. I saw a guy, like, it's one thing to say I peeled the banana the other day, but I saw a guy peeling a banana the other day. It's interesting because you're like, so wait a minute, what, he wouldn't bring this up if he didn't have a joke about it. So what the hell? Because now we're wondering what's funny about peeling a banana. So let's find out. Now, first, what he does, apparently he's already told a banana joke.
It's another banana joke because did you hear the other one ended with banana? Banana. I got 3 banana jokes, by the way. This is number 2. Okay.
He takes a moment to mock himself for talking too much about bananas. So that's funny. But it's a quick one, and it's something that a guy at his level can do because he's so good and professional. So now he goes back and repeats his premise.
I saw a guy peeling a banana on 6th Avenue, and it bothered me.
Okay. Now we get the struggle. I saw him peeling a banana the other day, and it bothered me. And you're like, why on earth would the way someone peels a banana bother you? So that's funny. That's a comedic take. Something very basic that shouldn't bother anyone bothered me. Oh, I like that. Why? Why would it bother you? What was he doing?
I saw a guy peeling a banana on 6th Avenue, and it bothered me. And I'll tell you why. Because it's the way he peeled. When I peel a banana, I hold it around here. I peel down to my hand, right?
Okay, so that's not funny. He's not trying to be funny. When I do it, it's normal. I peel it down to my hand like a normal person, is what he's implying. That's the setup.
This guy holds the banana at the bottom.
This guy holds the banana at the bottom. And now he's using the microphone to show us what he's talking about. Because there's a great use of stage, what he has on the stage. He has a mic stand, and a stool. And that's it. So he has to use one of those things, and he uses the microphone as a banana.
And he just peels the whole thing all the way down.
Now, he's not just saying it. He said all the way down. Now, he's using a different voice.
Yeah, that's a different voice. You're right.
So he's exaggerating and heightening how ridiculous it is the way this guy...
It felt like a guy at a urinal pulling his pants all the way to his ankles.
What heightening device was that?
Oh, a metaphor?
Yeah. So he uses a metaphor. It felt like, so that's either a simile or a metaphor. I can't remember. I think it's a simile. But that's like a guy pulling his thing all the way to his ankles, which is hilarious because anytime you see a guy do that, you're like, why? What are you doing? That's like a kid does that, not an adult.
I was like, dude, TMI with that banana right now. What are you?
TMI with that banana right now. Too much information with that banana. Right? Funny. Like that's a funny specific and a recognition laugh.
Recognition,
TMI.
yeah.
And you're applying it to something like too much information about that banana is funny. Too much information about your sex life. Too much information about your parents' nudity.
To a banana, it's
That makes it. But a banana, like that's funny.
What are you making a smoothie on 6th Avenue? What are you doing?
That's exaggerating. Are you making a smoothie? That's an extension. If you're doing that, are you also making a smoothie on 6th Avenue? Inappropriate. I don't like that. He says with his voice.
The banana was like, hey.
The banana was like, hey, what's he doing now?
Morsizing and giving it a voice.
Yep. So listen.
You don't even know how much you're going to eat. I have a bruise right here.
That's my.
Right. So now the banana is like a naked person in front of everybody. He's like, you don't even know how much you're going to eat. I have a bruise right here. And it's like, now that's a funny specific and a recognition laugh, because we know that what it looks like when a banana has a bruise, but we never think about the idea that a banana would be embarrassed to expose his bruise. So that's fucking hilarious. And so now this is Louis C.K. doing contrast, funny specifics, recognition, anthropomorphize, all extension, all in this one joke. So this goes to show you how someone brilliant like Louis C.K., however you feel about him because of his personal life, is, which he addresses all that too, he's able to weave together all these heightening devices, and now we get why, I saw a guy peeling a banana and it bothered me. Now we get why it bothered him. It made him feel uncomfortable, as if there's like a nude dude, talk about making a big deal out of a small thing. Funny bit.
Now that you recognize it, he does change his voice, but he doesn't really change that much, but he does
Not
a little
much.
bit of shame in his voice and a little bit of, hey.
Right. And now all of a sudden we're laughing, not because we recognize that voice as being a celebrity voice or as being a thing that we already know in our world. We're just laughing because he's capturing what it feels like to be a naked banana in front of
Has a
everybody.
character to it.
Exactly. Right. And it's funny. And it's like you said, it's not much of a difference, but he's going from it in the banana's like, hey, now immediately, and then he doesn't just say the banana, he turns his head a little bit and then he curves his body like a banana might.
The way he came.
Right. And then he points to his back, like we get that it's the back of the banana, and we've all seen the bruise. It's near the hand. It's funny. So anyway, any other comments on that one?
Going back to our premise and re-engineering a premise, the act out is really funny here. How would an amateur do it? It's not Louis C.K. Like, how would you say that needs a premise? How would you start that bit?
Well, I mean, it's hard to start it
premise.
differently than the way he did because it's so great. But
if you just started if you just say, I peel a banana like this, I saw a guy peel a banana like this. That doesn't really have a premise, does it?
No, the premise is, I saw a guy peeling a banana on 6th Street and it bothered me.
Right.
Remember, we said we're looking for the struggle. What is the thing? Why are we bringing this up? Because it bothered me. And now he's heightening why it bothered me, because it felt like a
guy to you.
He's showing me too much. TMI.
But it seems like, I guess I'm right. I wrote down your premise should offer the audience, say what's the proof? I'm waiting for the proof of that statement. What makes a good premise? Listen to some open mic yesterday in a show. There was never any premises. When I'm reading Dave Barry, some of the premises are he said something. I'm like, I want to see him prove this. I want to see his wacky brain prove this statement that he made. And then I'm looking forward. He says stuff like, everything can be improved, but with the addition of a weasel. And so he's going to add some sort of Al Weasel Gore or something a twist or a turn.
Right.
But you're reading it and you're like, that's a premise. I'm excited to see. And sometimes you get that in some good stand-ups as
it sets up either a what if or a loop, an open loop. and then you wait. Like that's a trick.
Like lean in and like I want the proof here.
Yeah,
You got
yeah. When you open up a loop, it's sort of a sales or marketing trick to get people to want to lean in and know what the
oh,
answer
loop.
is. Yeah.
So what's a loop in marketing? Like if you're selling me a car, what do you mean?
I would say, dear Mr. Stifler, last year our cars were able to allow our customers the ability to do something that not any other customer of any other car store were able to do.
Oh, you're like,
Can't wait
what
to
is it?
discuss that with you and let you know what that is at your earliest convenience. Talk soon, Mike. And now you're like, oh, what did this thing do? What having this car? How does it do that for me? So that would be like an open marketing loop in a sales letter. So it's the open loop is just a way to present something that you want to draw someone into, and that they'll finish it. You know, they want to hear you finish it.
Is it more subtle than like clickbait captions? You won't believe what happens next in this
That's
video.
kind of an open loop too. Yeah,
Okay.
those are extreme open loops. Exactly. Yeah, the clickbait stuff. You're not going to believe who someone just saw now alive.
Right.
What? What?
Click.
Jesus? Elvis? Jim Morrison? Who?
Tupac.
Yeah, it turns out it was just his grandmother because he saw a picture of her in the mirror and thought it was whatever, and it's always the very last option, like that's where you start reading comments so it's a clickbait. He saw a reflection of his grandmother in the mirror, thought she was alive.
Tebow. There was like a zillion clickbait. Is Tebow coming back? Did Tebow talk to the Cleveland Browns? No, actually, he didn't. He just flew to Cleveland for a wedding.
Oh God, yeah, get Tebow in there. He's good. He can suddenly become a tight end. It's easy. It's like in the Oakland A's when they tried to get that catcher to become a first baseman. I don't know if you
Oh
ever saw
yeah, from
Moneyball.
Moneyball.
It's like,
That's a good
but I don't
scene.
play first base. It's easy. Tell him it's really the most difficult thing you'll ever do.
Incredibly
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, anything good worth doing is difficult.
Oh, yeah, and what about the fans? Well, maybe we can train them to play first base. Or that's a really good scene.
Go ahead.
Dave Barry premises I just wanted to share you. I thought we were just like funny that maybe lean in. Like being in a mascot costume, you have no way to indicate distress. And so like right away, I was like, what's this story being about? He obviously
Right.
went to the Miami soccer team and dressed up like a lizard. And I want to see I really want to read this 800 words. So I guess my question is,
Because
how do you engineer premises like that? How do you get loops created? Or like I guess like a Berbiglia or a storyteller seems like they're telling stories, but are they really subtly setting up premises for us?
yeah, that's when you're telling a story on a stand-up stage, you're telling a series of premise setups and punchlines that together loop into a story. And it's masterful to be able to do that, because it's hard enough just to get people to laugh at one premise setup and punchline, but then when you string them together into a story, now you've got a bigger picture thing going on and a bunch of little things within it. So, and wait, what you said something before I was going to answer, and then you just kept going, and I didn't have.
How do you strengthen your premises, or how do you write prayer? How do you re-engineer your
Oh,
premises, or when you're
yeah,
telling a
that's what
story, do you go back and insert them?
this is a good writing tip for anyone, and you even benefited from it with your burro racing article, and that is, if you know the story already, then you've got to figure out a way to entice people to get into the story based on wherever that action is happening, wherever the biggest struggle is. Your burro racing story began and it was talking about burro racing, and so that's kind of like, yawn, who cares? I'm not in the mood to read about burro racing right now. But then the rewrite, now all of a sudden you're in the middle of a burro race and you're about to face a bunch of bighorn sheep. So now, your first line, you kind of did that with the new first line, which is, I said to my donkey, and what I think means, go on, yeah, whatever. And so it's like, you've done that. Now we're like, well, why do you have to do that? Oh, the bighorn sheep. Oh boy, what happened? They have those big horns. Like, is this dangerous? And so that's kind of an open loop that you sort of set up. It's like, and a good article, you might start that up at the beginning, and then you might end up answering or closing the loop by the end of the story. So you might leave them hanging that whole story, not knowing what happened to you on that burro in front of all those longhorn sheep, and then you talk about burro racing in between there, and then by the end you close that loop and you say, well, I was safe, but but only because of the bravery of the donkey, or I got injured but I was okay because whatever it was, and so that's, there's a lot of reverse engineering going on with those kinds of premises, because what you're doing is you're discovering the action and you're trying to phrase it in a way that puts the reader or the listener right in the smack dab in the middle of it, so they can't walk away. They got to go, what happened? Ooh, I'm burro racing. Cool. How did this end? And that's the same with all those kinds of premises. You're painting a picture to entice them into the story that involves action or struggle in the story first.
So what question do I ask myself? Do I catch the reader? Am I having the audience lean in? Is there some sort of mystery involved? What's the word?
Well, it's struggle. It's comedy is about your, a lot of times it's about your funny reaction to struggle, to things that aren't easy in the world, or people who aren't easy, or situations, or accomplishments you're trying to get to that are difficult to achieve, and comedy is your funny take on why it's not so easy to do these things, and your exaggerated take and all that, and funny. Okay, so let's see what Bill Burr has to say.
Like, I've noticed black people have the genius to put the curse word after they say the race of the person.
So this is going to be a what? He's talking about contrast. The contrast. So black people do it this way, white people do it this way. So right away we get, he's doing a contrast. Black people have the genius to put the curse word after the race of the person. Right? Like that's an open loop. Like what? I never observed that. I've never seen that. Why is that?
We're white dudes, we always put it in front.
So what's the struggle?
And if we would just make that little adjustment, we could save so many careers.
If we could just make that little adjustment, we could save so many careers.
That's why it's important. Yeah.
Why is it a struggle? Because the way we do it gets us fired. The way they do it gets a laugh. Now, that might be funny in its own, but Bill Burr is not going to stop there. He's going to do an act out. He's going to figure out how to give us more, to close that loop a little better.
So many jobs could be saved in the white community if we would just put it after.
So many jobs could be saved in the white community. So now we know why he's doing the bit. He's not making fun of black people. He's making fun of white people. He's saying black people do it in a way that doesn't get them in trouble, whereas us white people do it in a way that gets us fired. So that's the struggle. That's the problem. So he's going to show us what he means in more like a specific example. So he's giving us a general theory, and he'll break it down to a very specific example.
You never notice that in conversation? You hear a black guy being like, man, I was standing there, this Asian motherfucker came in, he starts talking about, you don't even hear it.
You don't even hear it. Contrast. So it doesn't make sense. Like he does the black guy first, because that's the guy who does it, and it's fine. He's a white dude doing a black dude. So he can't punch down at the black community like that doesn't work, but he can say they're doing it great, this is enviable, and now no one who's black in the audience is going to take offense to that, because they're going to be like, yeah, we are smart that way. And especially because he takes he punches up at the white way of doing it.
Dude, I would tell the exact same story, right? I'm standing there, right? This Asian comes in, right? Everybody's like,
right. So he's done a contrast, but now he's doing an act out, and he's doing a different perspective. Hey, easy, man. Like he's doing the other guy watching that thing. He's doing the white guy now and the black. So he's doing a lot of, and that's incongruent, right? Recognition laughs. So yeah, it's a really funny.
Like there's like a sense of like advice and like a teachable moment in that premise. Like how do I articulate that, of why I really, as a professor, I really like those bits, because I'm leaning in and I want the proof and the advice and the take.
Yeah, and like if you really think about it, a lot of comedians do that. Like we are offering solutions that are funny. Because probably you shouldn't say anything about someone's race. If you're really, like a woke modern person, you don't even bring that up. But the fact that we do anyways, he's trying to give you advice on how to do it effectively, and why we do it so his people, which are white people, do it ineffectively.
whoa, hey, easy, Jesus, dude. What year is it, It's like, dude, I just said what he said. I just preempted that's all I did. He suggested he's hooking up with people's mothers. I'm not even doing that.
So overstating the obvious. He's suggesting that he's hooking up with other people's mothers. That's way worse. Why are you mad at me? It's funny because he is poking fun of himself. So we laugh. If he was talking about black people, we wouldn't laugh because he's not black. Well, he doesn't have a right to make fun of those people. He has a right to make fun of what he looks like, who he is, how he up.
Like, how do I get a good premise like that, have like a teachable moment or a good loop to, there are some sayings that are insults to Texans, but compliments to vegans.
Well, you could tell it like a story. I heard a compliment the other day that I heard someone try to offer a compliment that I think is insulting to whatever, but it's da. So you tell us in general what it is, and then you give us the specific thing. Yeah, because that's
the general. So to go from general to specific.
Right. Yeah, that helps.
I have a premise about being on a stair climber and wanting to purposely flash like what you're listening to the hot girl on the stair climber next to you. And so like, oh yeah, I'm listening to like the Epicurious podcast in the original Greek or something like, but then there's like stuff on your phone that you don't want to like, you want to hide. You don't want to see that you're listening to Bop by the Hanson brothers.
Right. Okay, that's good. So what's the struggle? What's the thing that you're really talking about here? You're talking about the struggle of meeting somebody at the gym, right? The struggle of impressing somebody, of who you're interested in sexually or at least intimately, and also presenting an image of yourself so that they want to get to know you, right? So that's the struggle. Is it's real easy to misunderstand people at the gym because you could talk about how you look. Oh, I'm not wearing my designer clothes today because they're in the water. They're at the cleaners. That's why I'm wearing these cutoff sweats and this T-shirt, my darling. Or whatever. I mean, not that that's funny, but you have to figure out what is that struggle. What is it, the thing that you're trying to accomplish that's difficult, and that's you're trying to get laid at the gym, essentially. So that's where you'd start. Your premise would be there's so many places to meet women nowadays that it's hard to choose where the best place is. Like a lot of people use dating apps. I try to meet women at the gym, but the problem with the gym is, they can quickly misunderstand who you are or quickly get the wrong idea of who you are. Now we're like, ooh.
Finding that line saying the problem is it can be misinterpreted. And you're like, okay, well, how's he going to show it's a problem by being misinterpreted? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's sort of like a low end version of what you're talking about right there. And so you can be, and there's you have to just keep rewriting that until it's intriguing enough to and then that's what you can do with all your bits, like start going back and looking at your premises and how are you setting this up? Is it intriguing? Are you getting people to want to listen and lean in because you're cutting straight to what is the problem that I'm attempting to either solve, circumnavigate, or ignore just so I can still get what I want. Right.
I think I found myself doing that in my one bit about, where I talk about how people just send text messages, happy birthdays from the toilet, and they're not nearly as meaningful because you used to send a card and the card was effortful and meaningful. And so I re-engineered that to say, like, I think technology is ruining meaningful gestures.
Yeah, there you go. What does he mean? What does he mean by that? And why is that important to you? Is the next thing you have to add into that premise. It's ruining it, and that affects me because again, remember, you're not a generic corner quipper. You're an adventurous, professor, kind of a thing. So we have to figure out why that's important to you, that this is true. Otherwise, it's just a generic fact that you're trying to make you funny. And then we might laugh at it, but we don't laugh at it as deeply. And it doesn't pull us into your act, into your take. So that's what the really good comics are able to do, is they're able to apply their lens on top of it just being a funny joke.
So what I'm hearing you say is look for the stakes or look for the struggle and try to keep rewriting it until you have a little bit of what you said, intriguing. And you get intriguing, and then you want to add your comedy lens and make it important from your perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's a general tip. I think there's always exceptions to that. Different comedians do it differently, and find success. But for the most part, if you want to intrigue people with any writing or even a music, like like the opening lyrics of a song are always, they cut to the meat of it. You know what I mean? After you hear the first words to the song, you get what the song is almost. That's just about writing. Writing is just about like, how can I get you with the fewest words possible to want to hear the rest of what I have to say? And the comedian, you're just saying, well, how can I begin a story in such a way that you've got to hear the end of it, or you're going to be unsatisfied. And then I give you the ending, and it's a surprise. It's not what you thought it would be, because I set you up to think it was going to be a typical ending.
Yeah, the misdirection. That's one of the, I think, the best things I've ever learned as far as most return on investment is, does it have a surprise or a misdirection?
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then it's not.
Yeah. And that's that's the thing that a lot of new comedians tend to not understand, is that trick of look over here where I want you to look, and then I'm going to hit you over here where you're not looking, but it's still going to make sense to that setup I said, but it's going to make sense in a different way. And you're going to laugh and you go, oh, I get it. I get why that makes sense. I see. You didn't mean this, you meant that. Okay. Oh, you got me. Good one. And again, this is the part where I'm sure, the gatekeepers get upset hearing us break it down like this, because they're like, oh, who gives a shit about all that? Just be funny, but it's like, to me, it's the important thing is to know, why is it funny? But there's other people that don't want to know that, and that's okay too. I don't need to. You don't need to be in on as a baseball player, you don't need to write a book on how to play baseball to be a good baseball player. If you're just naturally good and you practice and you learned your skills, then there's no need for you necessarily to write a book about it, or even be able to write a book about it. But there's some people that are really good at analyzing things and breaking them down, even if they're, not necessarily the best in the business at doing that thing, but like a lot of guys who are at the top of their game don't have time to write those things. It's the people like me who are like climbing up still, that are like, oh, I can analyze it pretty good. Like they say, like a lot of people, instead of doing it, they teach or they coach, or they, because they realize that their skills are limited, but they understand it really well, and so that's the person that can help other people find the best of their own abilities, and as opposed to it being about themselves. And that's what I feel like, I think of myself as being able to do both. I feel like I got to a pretty good level as a stand-up comic on my own, and then based on that, that's what gave me the confidence to help other people try to find their comedy lens and their use of a blueprint, and their ability to use those humor heightening devices, so they can begin to say, oh, I get what the game is here. I get what we're trying to do. And if I keep practicing, I mean, like I watch you, like Chris, you didn't have a clue about any of this stuff, and now that you begin to understand how this works, I'm watching you do some organic, funny quips that you weren't doing when we first met. You didn't know to do them. You didn't know where to do them. You were mystified by the whole thing. And now you're like, oh, I see. Right there is where the bit should be. Now, what's the bit? Well, okay, I need to misdirect and heighten somehow. Oh, okay. How could I do? But, it's a slow roll at first. And so by that time, the conversation has moved on, and it's too late to make that comment. But as you get better at it and see it, boom, you can start to pop that in there. And especially if you have a love for the thing, comedy.
Yeah, I think it's just hanging out with you too much. Just how you heighten stuff right away, right? You take it to the next level. And I really, to be honest with you, I didn't know when you said heighten stuff. For like 3 months, I probably talked to you. I didn't really grasp what you meant by even heighten. But now I'm like seeing it. Like yesterday, a guy was doing a bit about being raised in a very stern church in Ohio, and she said something about like her grandma used to do baptisms in her bathtub. That was it. She kept on moving on. I was like, oh, like Mike would be like, oh my God, you have like 30. So how do you frog bank baptism and bathtub and
right? So now you're
hair in the drain and the
right
rubber ducky and the holy water and how do you?
Well, you start thinking about the other things, you like the religious ceremonies, and then the poor man's, the hillbilly version of it, that's one way to frog bank it. So now, I'm compressing Wonder Bread to make my wafers for communion, or I'm using macaroni and cheese, one piece of macaroni and cheese for everyone to, this is the noodle of Christ. Amen. Right. I mean, like that's the frog bank. You're laughing. So like we're on to something there. But then if she just even plays that about the baptism in the tub, Like that's where she takes the shower head and like, is pouring it on him in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Ghost,
Yeah.
um, and then you got to use the loofah or the squeegee for something. You got to use the soap bar, for like you just think of all the things that are in the bathtub, and then you figure out what the religious usage of those things could be, and then that's how you begin to combine those worlds. And she could totally, yeah, like that's a thing where that's why sometimes for me it's a really tough thing to go to these open mics, because there's just so many open loops in our clothes. There's so many places that you could heighten that aren't heightened. There's so many possible punchlines that people go right past, and it's just like, oh.
And I'm starting to feel that like I still can't like come up with the funny jokes as you can that fast, but at least like I'm starting to identify like opportunities. If I would go home and maybe free write for a half an hour on it, I would maybe squeeze out one or two.
Yeah, but if I
Um,
put you in the same room with you from 6 months ago or 3 months ago, I'll bet you this you would blow the other one away. You would look like you're like this fast thinking guy
hmm.
versus the other guy, because it wasn't even occurring to the other guy to do these things, and now it's occurring to you. And then you watch the 6 month later guy now from today, you're like, compared to you how you are right now, is going to be totally different if you continue to do what you're doing, which is you're not only studying how this works, but you're practicing it on stage and you're flexing your muscle in front of strangers. So and then you're having shitty sets so you're going, oh God, that didn't work, and then you're watching those sets like you're suffering through your own misery to go, oh, that's why right there, oh, that's why, and then you're having better sets and you're like going, oh, see, when I make that adjustment it works. And to me, that's the beauty of beginning in this art form, is you get to make really big leaps and bounds because it's these adjustments that you go, oh, I didn't know that's what we were doing. And that, to me, that's the argument for all of these books on how to write stand-up comedy. There's a whole bunch of them. There's Judy Carter's Comedy Bible. But there's at least, I would say that there's at least maybe almost 10 books that are worth reading that I've looked at, because you study who your competitors or whatever, and there are at least 10 books that can give you a version of what I'm talking about, which is this is how to put together a joke.
Is there a tactful way like to give advice to someone on an open mic? Like, is it just generally accepted as a comedian to be like, hey, can I give you a tag, or hey,
Oh
that
yeah,
that bit?
you could like, well, the first thing you do is just get to know them, like meet them. Just say, hey, my name's Chris. I'm one of the other open micers. We've never met before. Hey, I had a tag for that bit you do about the bowling alley. Do you want to hear it? Just say it like that. Don't give it to them, but just say, hey, I had a tag, a
Want to
possible
hear?
tag. You can use it or not use it, but it just hit me, when I heard you say it, and I just thought it would be a perfect tag for you. And I don't know any comedian that you give a joke to that works. It's going to be like, what off? They're going to be like, oh yeah, cool. And some of the best comedians will take a good tag. If you're working with a headliner and you go, hey, Jim Gaffigan, did you ever think about calling back the Nero bit while you're doing this other Greek god bit or whatever? And he was like, oh yes, yeah, that works. And he'd be the kind of guy that would probably be ecstatic that you gave that to him. But you also have to be like, you have to remember, like, comics are very stubborn, and comics have it like they're like my son, where they have a very particular idea of how they want to do things, and the second you start with unsolicited help, they're like, get away from me, stop telling me how to do it. So you have to be very careful about how you present that, for sure. Like if you're an aspie hole like me, oh, I got a way better punchline than I wouldn't do that. That's not that's how someone who's really clueless might do it, but I wouldn't do it like that.
There was a guy doing open mic 2 weeks ago, and then he was doing a bit about peeing in the ocean or something. And he said something. He said a line. It was like, "When I pee in the ocean or I pee in lakes," and they kept on going. And I was like, "That's a." And I thought of a tag. You need a third one. So I said, "Hey, how about when you pee in oceans, when you pee in lakes, when you pee in hot tubs?" Just a quick little hitter,
Yeah,
just to see if, along the way to your bigger
exactly.
joke.
Because now you're big body of water, very personal little body of water. That's funny. That's a contrast.
My the premise we were working on about my softball team being old. But instead of saying my pitcher has gout, I kind of tried to write it as we have gout related issues.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a funny way to, instead of just saying gout,
Yeah.
his swinging suffers from gout related issues. Yeah, his ability to get from home plate to first base is dampened by his gout related issues,
See, yeah.
which is always exacerbated by his diarrhea tendencies. So now that's the game,
Yeah.
It's fun though, right? It's fun
Yeah.
to like when you realize that you have that's why it's so funny to watch new comedians just pass by all this stuff, and it's like you're missing like the opportunity for the details, for the funny specifics, for the the real misdirections, and then the heightens that we're not expecting. So, but it's hard because you're trying to orchestrate all of it in a way that someone who's never heard any of this will make sense of it. So this is Tom Papa. I don't know if you like Tom. I really like him. I think he's really good.
The epitome of male vanity is in the summer. In the summer, in any town, you will see a
Okay, so
Premise right away.
the premise.
The epitome of male vanity is in the summer.
That's his premise. The epitome of male vanity is in the summer. So what does that even mean? What is he talking about? I hope he gets more specific, but that's a very general thing. The epitome of male vanity is in the summer. So why is that a struggle for him? Why is he even bringing this up?
In the summer, in any town, you will see a man, an 80-year-old man, walking down the street in a tank top.
In a tank top. So now we get it. He's visually insulted by men who think that it's okay to flaunt what they look like despite their age.
Or worse, no shirt at all. Just strutting down the sidewalk.
So now he's basically telling the story. I saw an old guy with no shirt at all, just strutting down, like without a care in the world. So now he's doing an act out of, he's doing a cut back to what I saw.
Like an expired rotisserie chicken.
Right? What is that?
Simile.
Yeah. So and it's a funny one. Like that shirtless old man looks like an expired rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, you can see
Funny,
like the dark
specific. We've all seen that old chicken in the
mental imagery. Mental imagery pops in your head right away when that.
And it's all done in like, how long has this been so far? Like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And he's acting it out. He's doing the guy has not a care in the world. Look at me. That alone is getting like applause and laughter.
No muscle mass left, just two bony chicken wings.
So now, which is he describing? The chicken in the grocery store or this old guy? He's describing both. It's as a frog bank.
Licorice nipples swaying in the wind.
Right? That's not a simile, that's a
metaphor, that one, right?
Yeah, licorice nipples. So now you picture those nubs that are like this long sticking out of his chest.
The way he sees his
in
fingers
the wind.
too.
And now he's doing his fingers, so now we even get a funnier, like a visual. And he's got, sometimes they're going together, sometimes they're going opposite. That's all by choice. He's doing that on purpose. He knows that's funny.
Gold chains tangled in his spooky cobweb body hair.
Gold chains tangled in his spooky cobweb body hair. So like that's recognition laugh and funny specifics. Spooky cobweb body hair, right? That's like, we get that. That's the old guy's like, that weird, it's like everywhere, like he's been trapped in a haunted house and he barely escaped.
The nerve to hit on young women.
Well, this is why it bothers him, because he sees that this old guy has the confidence to hit on young women. So that's it. That's the bit. So that's funny. That that you can see that what gets a lot of laughs from all of these guys was funny specifics and recognition. They're bringing up things like imagery that we've already seen and to make comparisons to what they're trying to tell us.
But they're still well couched or bookended with a good premise that makes you lean in and want the proof, and then you get the proof.
For sure. And that's the thing, is these premises, I don't know how I would make them funny. It wouldn't occur to me to make fun of someone for the way they ate a banana, unless I'm, like maybe, Louis C.K. was walking down the street and did see a guy with a banana like that. Or maybe he saw that in a restaurant, or so maybe one of his friends ate it that way. So he had to create a story that made it tellable. Same with this, who knows when Tom Papa saw somebody, a shirtless old man, but he must have seen it. And so basically Tom Papa saw a shirtless old man walking down the street confidently, and so they created this bit. Like, how dare he do that? Because I don't have that kind of confidence. But he didn't really do a contrast. He didn't say I don't have that, but he does. So there's no real contrast in here. He's just saying that guy does that. But anyway, you always ask for like, what can I do that allows me to get better at this? Well, that's what you can do. You can just start taking clips, and you can begin to really identify what's the premise, how are they getting into this, what's the struggle that they're dealing with, because comedy is, you're really making fun of things that aren't going well.
Would you even write it out, like write in a journal? Would you like? I'm a big fan of note taking, and active learning is it's. There's one thing just to watch comedy. There's another thing to actively watch comedy and pause, break down. This is a premise. This is funny here. This is funny specifics. This is a metaphor.
Yeah,
You're gonna get a lot more out of that than
get your blueprint
passively.
template and then plug these things in. And then, especially in the beginning, like as you get better, like you're not going to be doing any of this stuff, like our friend, Adam Bloom. Like I said, do you tape your sets? He's like, no, I couldn't, I do a set every night. So like I would be spending too much time. Now I would still argue that you should still record your sets, because then if something good happens, then you have a recording of it. You might not necessarily watch all of them, but you know that, oh, I had a good tag on that bit that I don't normally use. Let me see how I did it and why it worked, and then you can use it again. So that's the only reason why I would tape every set. But everyone has their own habits and their own technique. But that's why it's so cool to have these recordings, and then to be able to break that down. I think to me, it really helps me understand how this works, so that when I begin to do it myself, I can see what I'm doing. Like I know why I'm doing it.
But also give you something tangible to do. Like if you have the hour to do comedy, you're not just gonna stare at an open Word document or open page and waste an hour and feel
Right.
anxious because you're not doing anything. It gives you something like reps. It gives you bicep curls to do.
Yeah. And I wouldn't do the whole hour. I wouldn't do that. That might be a good warm up. The first 20 minutes, just look at some sets and just do it.
Yeah, that was a really good session. I thought the premise, the seeing the premises more clearly, and then going through those examples and then reapplying the stakes, premise, proof,
Yeah.
super helpful.
Yeah, and I think that the second part of it is like you're always asking, well, what can I do to get better? And I think that's an answer. Well, you can break down other like pros, and this is like it's like when you say, if you're a writer, you should read books, and it's like, well, how does a writer read? And that's a very important question, because a fan of fiction reads differently than a writer of fiction. If I'm writing fiction, I'm reading what you did. I'm looking at how you describe things. I'm looking at your narration techniques, and I'm looking at your dialogue. I'm looking at the things you're saying and how you're saying them, and how that supports the theme of in the story.
What I call active reading. So
Yeah.
it's scribbling in the notes and scribbling stuff in the overstating of it in the margin and underlying this because it's a really good chiasmus or whatever, like. So I think that doing the same blueprint with comedy is the same thing. It's like actively watching comedy.
Yeah, actively watching and breaking down comedy, and I think that's important to do. And Adam Bloom brought that up. And if you are an active listener of comedy, you're going to learn a lot from that. And he's right. He's absolutely right. But that's not the only way to take in this information. But that's definitely, you should be doing that.